Usually when we talk about high-stakes espionage on television, there's this built-in expectation of absolute cold calculation.
Right, like total perfection.
Exactly. You picture this pristine, grand game of chess where secret identities and hidden agendas are just, moved around the board by people who literally never sweat.
I mean, James Bond never has a panic attack.
No, never. But sometimes the absolute biggest distraction in a global, world-ending mission isn't the ticking clock or the lasers. It's the ridiculously attractive person standing right in front of you.
Literally. You go in expecting analytical binary perfection, like the mission succeeds or fails based on pure, unadulterated logic. And instead, you get a tactical landscape, completely hijacked by unresolved family trauma, vendettas, and people making the absolute messiest possible choices because they caught feeling.
Oh my God, the feelings ruin everything. And babes, welcome back. By the time you hear this, it'll be the weekend. So babes, we really hope you enjoy the sunshine and drinks, babes.
We need you all hydrated and thriving today because the amount of absolute chaos we have to unpack requires, serious stamina.
So much stamina. But honestly, to the snark squad out there, babes, before we get into the literal espionage bloodbath that was this week's drop, we have to talk about our own personal chaos.
We have to.
Because we spent the entire afternoon making cheesecake, and we absolutely need to discuss it. We are spiraling.
Spiraling is an understatement. I mean, it started as a cute domestic weekend idea and devolved into a full-blown tactical operation. We had to do the Costco trip for ingredients, which, if you've ever been to Costco on a Saturday afternoon, is basically its own form of Manticore training.
It's a war zone. You go in for cream cheese, and suddenly you're fighting a family of 5 for a flatbed cart, navigating around people aggressively giving out tiny pizza samples, and somehow we spent 3 times more than we planned.
I still don't know how that happened.
I went in with a budget, and I walked out with 40 pounds of dairy and, a lawn chair.
We fought our way through those weekend crowds like we had a security detail, but we didn't. We just had sheer willpower and a desperate craving for dessert. And then we get back, we start baking, and the kitchen. Babes, the kitchen looked like a complete disaster afterward. I am talking powdered sugar on the ceiling.
I am genuinely wondering why every single baking recipe somehow requires the use of every single bowl you own in the entire house.
Right. Why?
Why do I need a separate bowl to whisk 3 eggs? Why can't I just crack them into the main batter? My dishwasher's looking at me like I committed a literal war crime.
But the reveal, the final flavor, makes all the kitchen trauma worth it. Snark Squad,
Yeah.
We made an Oreo Biscoff cheesecake.
I need a moment of silence for this flavor profile.
Yeah.
We might have actually created the greatest cheesecake flavor ever to exist on this planet. The crumble, unbelievable.
It's the structural integrity of the crust for me. The perfect cookie-to-cheesecake ratio is an art form. Though I will admit, we were totally sneaking bites of the batter before it even finished setting in the fridge. We could not wait.
Not even a little bit. And it honestly makes me wonder if homemade desserts somehow taste significantly better just because of the sheer chaos and financial ruin involved in making them.
Oh, 100%.
I spent $300 at Costco and ruined my kitchen, so this cheesecake has to be a religious experience.
It absolutely does. And naturally, we had to wash it all down with an espresso martini because, babes, this is literally the dessert of champions. It's the only acceptable pairing.
Okay, but we have to settle this debate right now on air because we were spiraling over this in the kitchen while the cake was chilling. Do espresso martinis actually count as coffee?
Yes.
Are they socially acceptable to drink before dinner, or is that completely unhinged?
I will stand by my assessment. An espresso martini is basically just an adult iced coffee. It's caffeine, it's served cold, it wakes you up. You can drink it at 4 in the afternoon.
See, I completely disagree. I think they are elegant. They come in a delicate little glass with the 3 espresso beans floating on top. It's an evening vibe. You can't just walk around at 3 p.m. sipping an espresso martini like you're at a Starbucks drive-thru.
Watch me. I absolutely will. But okay, speaking of our chaotic afternoon, we also have to tell the Snark Squad that we went to Italian class before the baking incident. And babes, we honestly don't know if we're getting any better at the language at all.
Not even slightly. Which is infuriating because you already speak fluent Spanish, so you have the Romance language foundation, and I know French. We should be crushing this.
We really should be.
But somehow Italian is still completely humbling both of us.
It really is. And babes, this was class number 7. We should be having fluent conversations about geopolitical affairs by now, but we are still stuck on possessive adjectives. And I blame our instructor entirely.
Oh my God, Giovanni.
Giovanni is a menace to my education.
Giovanni is literally giving Vogue Italia cover model energy. He walks into the community center looking like he just stepped off a runway in Milan, and honestly, he is way too attractive for anyone in that room to concentrate on conjugating verbs.
It's a huge distraction.
Yeah.
The entire dynamic of the classroom shifts when he speaks. Suddenly, everyone in the room is volunteering to read aloud from the textbook, pretending they totally understand the complex grammar rules just to get a nod of approval from him.
I caught you dramatically rolling your R's for absolutely no reason on a word that didn't even have an R in it. You were just vibrating.
I was trying to impress him.
Yeah.
And it honestly makes me wonder if learning a language automatically makes people more attractive. Like, is it the accent, or is it just a mystery of not fully knowing what they are saying? Because right now, the only sentence I've genuinely mastered with perfect pronunciation is ordering pasta.
Honestly, ordering pasta is a survival skill, so you're doing great. But the chaos didn't start with the cheesecake or Giovanni. It started at work today. We both had the most unhinged days at our respective dental practices.
Oh, completely. You know, dentistry is supposed to be this very clinical, predictable profession, but the amount of sheer human mess we deal with is staggering. I had a patient today who brought their emotional support lizard to a root canal.
Oh, stop it right now.
An iguana just chilling on their chest when I'm trying to isolate a molar.
Yeah.
The assistant didn't know whether to hand me the suction or a head of lettuce.
I am screaming. That is amazing. My day wasn't much better, honestly. I had a patient come in for a cleaning, and they confessed like it was a dark, terrible secret that they've been flossing with the sharp edge of glossy business cards because they, quote, like the rigidity.
Wait, what?
I just stared at them. I was like, you are literally paper cutting your own gums on purpose. The absolute mess of it all.
The human species is wild. We are completely unhinged. Speaking of absolute messes and wild behavior, babes, we've got a whole lot of spy chaos to unpack. So let's get into this deep dive.
Yes, let's do it.
We are looking at the culmination of Season 2 of Citadel, specifically Episodes 5 and 6, Heirlooms and Highlands.
And when I tell you this chessboard was set entirely on fire, I am not exaggerating. We have to start at the psychological ground zero of this disaster, which is the fracturing mind of Mason Kane.
It's the only place to start.
Yeah.
Because you cannot separate the geopolitical disaster of Episode 6 from the deeply human, absolutely spiraling breakdown that happens in Episode 5.
Okay.
So let's look at the board. Mason has gone completely rogue. He shoved Gabriel Braga into the trunk of a car to use him as leverage to get his wife Abby back.
Right.
But he's not doing this alone. He's driving with Delia Archer.
The tension in this car is suffocating, because we aren't just watching two spies go to a rendezvous, we are watching a man completely torn in half psychologically. We've talked before about how his Kyle Conroy persona was this fresh start, this idyllic family man, but right now, Kyle is actively deteriorating.
He is losing it.
He's panicking, he's making emotional, impulsive decisions, which is perfectly contrasted by the absolute iceberg sitting next to him.
Dahlia. The red light scene perfectly encapsulates their dynamic. Braga wakes up in the trunk and starts banging on the lid, creating a massive commotion. A police officer approaches their unmarked vehicle. And Kyle, because he is very much the terrified Kyle in this moment, is sweating. He's looking at street cameras. He's panicking about the officer's radio. He's operating like a civilian caught in a crime.
And what does Dahlia do? She doesn't hesitate for a microsecond. She rolls down the window and shoots the police officer dead, just like that. A completely brutal, calculating execution just to maintain control of the environment.
And Mason's reaction is pure horror. He looks at her and calls her a monster. And her response, this line is burned into my brain. The thing about monsters is, we get things done.
It's chilling. She openly admits she prefers the Mason persona to Kyle. She literally tells him that Kyle is weak, just like her own father was, but Mason, the ruthless killer, takes after her. She's validating his absolute darkest impulses.
We have to unpack this from a psychological perspective, because Dahlia is employing terrifying maternal manipulation here. She recognizes that the Kyle partition in Mason's brain, if we think of his mind like a corrupted hard drive, is fundamentally incapable of handling the reality of the espionage world.
Oh, totally. Kyle is too soft.
Right. Kyle's a civilian construct.
Right.
So Dahlia is actively trying to coax the Mason malware back to the surface. She's telling him that abandoning his humanity is the only way he can protect his family.
And she doesn't stop there. They get to her safe house to lay low before the hostage exchange, and Dahlia goes into full, twisted, dark domestic mode. She starts cooking. She makes chicken cacciatore.
Which is such an insidious detail. It's not just a random meal. It was his father Thomas's favorite meal. She is weaponizing sensory memory.
Exactly. The smell of food is one of the strongest worst triggers for human memory. Mason even says, the smell never leaves you, and Dahlia responds with this incredibly dark, horrific poetry. She says, chicken cacciatore, drugstore perfume, burning flesh.
The juxtaposition is staggering. She is intentionally linking the warm, comforting aroma of a family dinner directly to the horrific, foundational trauma of Mason's life. Watching his father burn to death in his bed when he was 5 years old.
It's so messed up.
She is ensuring that his legacy is intrinsically, permanently tied to violence and pain. She's bonding with him over their shared toxic history, telling him that despite Thomas being a cruel man, he was the love of her life.
And while she's doing this, she's actively eroding his relationship with Abby. She points out that he's risking the life of Nadia, the woman he supposedly truly loves as a spy, to save Abby, the woman the Kyle persona merely married. She's chipping away at every single pillar, holding the Kyle identity up.
Which perfectly primes Mason for the breaking point when Dahlia steps out to arrange the trade with Joanna Malvern. Mason is left completely alone with Braga, and Braga decides to try his own hand at psychological warfare.
Which, spoiler alert, proves to be the most fatal miscalculation of his entire life.
A massively fatal miscalculation. Braga tries to recruit him first, talking about creating a better world for their kids. When Mason rejects that, Braga pivots straight to guilt, and he goes for the jugular. He brings up Mason's father, saying Thomas would be ashamed of him. He tells Mason that he only became a spy to hide from his true self, because if he ever looked in the mirror, he wouldn't survive the reflection. And then Braga brings up the dream.
Babes, I had to pause the TV here. It was so incredibly dark. Braga describes this recurring nightmare he has about his own father. They're in the ocean, they're drowning, and a rescue boat is coming. But right as his father realizes they are going to be saved, Braga pushes him under the water and holds his skull down until he drowns.
Visceral, absolutely visceral. And he weaponizes this anecdote against Mason. He tells Mason that his daughters, Asha and Hendrix, will carry this exact same legacy of shame. He says they will spend their entire lives trying to scrub themselves of any residue of their father. He claims they will dream of drowning him in the ocean, wondering why the world didn't give them the chance to kill him themselves.
And that is it. That is the breaking point. If we go back to our hard drive metaphor, this is the moment the system completely crashes. Mason has been running the Kyle program, trying so desperately to suppress the violent files of his past. But Braga threatens the purity of his daughter's love, which is the entire foundational operating system of Kyle. Mason absolutely loses it. He snaps, pulls his weapon, and brutally executes Braga right there in the closet.
It is an impulsive, emotional purge. But I want to debate this with you. When Mason snaps and kills the only leverage he has, the show frames it as him protecting his family. But is he actually trying to save Abby out of genuine selfless love? Or is he selfishly clinging to Abby because she represents the Kyle identity he wishes he could keep? Is he fighting for her life? Or is he fighting for the illusion of himself that she provides?
Oh, that is a hot take, but I totally agree with the selfish angle. Every single character in this universe uses family as a shield to justify their moral rot. They do objectively horrific things and say, oh, I did it for my child. By killing Braga, Mason objectively puts Abby in infinitely more danger. It wasn't a tactical move, it was pure ego-preservation. He couldn't bear the thought of his daughters seeing him as a monster, so he committed a monstrous act just to silence the guy saying it out loud.
Exactly. It's a dark irony. And the collateral damage of his ego trip is immediate. Because his unraveling isn't just his own personal tragedy, it instantly becomes a massive, catastrophic, tactical disaster for Bernard, Nadia, and the entire Citadel team.
Right, because as we know, you can't just call up Manticore, an international crime syndicate, holding your wife hostage and say, hey, babes, minor hiccup, I shot the hostage we were supposed to trade. Can we take a rain check?
Joanna Malvern is expecting Gabriel Braga at this exchange. If Braga isn't there, Abby is dead, full stop. Mason's tantrum backed them into an impossible corner, which brings us to the subway exchange. The team is forced to improvise one of the most desperate, ridiculous cover-ups imaginable.
They dress Mason up as the guy he just murdered. They put him in heavy tactical gear, masks, hoods, and they use a highly advanced voice changer program to perfectly mimic Braga's voice.
Let's talk about the logistics of this, because the tension is masterfully done. They changed the meeting location to the Charing Cross subway station, specifically an abandoned, unlit platform. The darkness is their only actual cover.
The set design and the lighting here are brilliant. The flickering lights, the deep shadows, the claustrophobic architecture of the subway, it perfectly mirrors the murky, compromised morality of everything happening. Dahlia sets up the trade with Joanna, but Nadia and her team are already in the shadows, waiting to ambush.
And you have Dahlia and Joanna staring each other down in this standoff of absolute lies. Joanna thinks she has Abby under a hood. Dahlia has Mason playing Braga. The second the hood comes off, the illusion breaks and all hell breaks loose. Mason starts taking out the Manticore security detail, but Joanna escapes. And Dahlia, being the ultimate self-serving icon of toxicity, doesn't even help him. She just gets in her car and drives away.
She literally leaves him to fight his way out of a subway terminal, which he does, eventually catching up to them in the getaway car. But Babes, amidst all this gunfire, the tactical retreats, the adrenaline, the absolute biggest bombshell of the entire series is dropped in the quietest, most devastating way possible.
I gasped. I literally gasped at the screen.
They are in the car. A Manticore guard manages to shoot out their back window before they peel away. Mason turns around. His heart is pounding. He's looking at his wife, who he just risked global security to save. And he says, "Abby, are you okay?" And instead of crying, instead of hugging him, she just stares at him with this dead, knowing look. And she says, "You mean Celeste?"
Shivers. Actual shivers. That one sentence completely shatters the foundational reality of the show.
We have to unpack the philosophical weight of this reveal. Because when she says, "You mean Celeste?" she isn't just uncovering a lie about her past. She is exposing the core hypocrisy of the entire narrative. Abby was Celeste Graham, an active Citadel agent. And Mason Kane, the man she built a life with, the man she had a child with, is the one who had her memory completely wiped to cover up an operational mess. He erased her identity and created the compliant, naive Abby as a byproduct.
It is HR's absolute worst nightmare, let me tell you. Okay. But seriously, it touches on this pervasive, terrifying theme of programming that runs through the whole show. We see literal programming, like the voice changer making Mason sound like Braga. But this is conceptual programming, is treating a human mind like a rewritable hard drive.
Mason deleted Celeste to serve the agency, and then he selfishly built his own idyllic Kyle life on top of the blank slate he created. It completely destroys his redemption arc. He's not a hero saving a damsel, he's the architect of her subjugation.
And this is where we have to judge the quote-unquote good guys. Because Manticore is clearly framed as the villainous syndicate that wants to rule the world. But look at Citadel. Citadel agents are systematically wiping the minds of their own allies for operational convenience. If the heroes are violating human autonomy just as fundamentally as the villains, is there even a difference between these two organizations? Or is Citadel just Manticore with better PR and nicer suits?
They are the exact same. And what's even more terrifying is that this intimate, horrifying violation of Abby's mind is essentially just a prototype. It's a micro component of the massive global threat that Bernard Orlick is uncovering at the exact same time.
Which brings us to the Manticore Gambit. Bernard is playing this high-level counter-espionage game, and he perfectly illustrates the moral decay we just talked about. He discovers that a CIA contact, Frank Sharp, is the mole who leaked their tracking data. Now, a noble agency might arrest him or expose him. What does Bernard do?
He ruthlessly blackmails him. Bernard threatens Frank, manipulates his life, and forces him to become a double agent for Citadel. He uses Manticore's exact tactics to get what he wants. And what Frank uncovers using his CIA clearance is the absolute endgame scenario.
Joanna Melvern wasn't just in London to trade hostages. She has a 30-hour ticking clock to execute an assassination at the heavily fortified G8 summit. The target is the Russian president, Aronov. But the assassination is just the cost of doing business. The prize is what Manticore gets in return.
The Russian prime minister is willing to hand over absolute operational control of a massive, unparalleled Russian satellite network, a surveillance tool capable of total global domination. Joanna is paying $12 billion for it. But the money isn't the creepy part. It's the prime minister's one condition.
This dialogue is haunting. He agrees to give them the keys to the surveillance kingdom, but he demands that he, his wife, and his children are permanently wiped from the system's control registry. His exact phrasing, "They must remain exempt from your prying eyes."
Let's just spiral on that for a second. The audacity of elite privilege. He is perfectly fine subjecting the entire global population, including his own citizens, to absolute, inescapable surveillance. He doesn't care about freedom or privacy for the masses. His only non-negotiable is that his own family gets to live off the grid. He wants the power of the panopticon without ever having to step inside it.
It's the ultimate commentary on modern surveillance states. And how Joanna plans to pull off this assassination to get the network is even worse. The G8 summit is locked down. It has more security than the Kremlin. You can't sneak a gun in. You can't sneak a bomb in. There are 7-hour checks. So how do you kill a world leader in an impenetrable fortress?
You don't sneak a weapon in. You sneak a hacked human mind in.
Yes. Manticore has a captive hacker, Edison, and they force her to unlock the software for a Manchurian candidate-style mind control chip. And how do they motivate her? By threatening to send someone to her house to, and, I quote, douse her daughter in gas and set her on fire. Again, the weaponization of family to force compliance.
Once that code is cracked, the chip is active. It bypasses all conscious thought. It completely overrides free will. Any diplomat, journalist, or security guard with this chip in their head can instantly be turned into a sleeper assassin. I look at this chip like a biological Trojan horse. The security teams are patting people down for explosives, completely unaware that the human mind itself has been hacked.
It's the terrifying logical conclusion of everything we've seen. Erasing Celeste's memory was phase 1. Actively overriding someone's physical autonomy to make them pull a trigger is phase 2. And babes, when you think about real-world algorithms, how our social media feeds subtly guide our choices, our purchases, our fears, it's not that far off. We think we are making choices, but the architecture of our digital lives is heavily steering the wheel.
It is deeply unsettling. But the show doesn't leave this as some abstract geopolitical threat. They don't deploy this mind control weapon on a random background extra. In the climax of Episode 6, Highlands, this global weapon is activated in the most intimate, inescapable, and tragic setting imaginable.
The Scottish safe house. It brings all the global stakes crashing right back down onto the personal trauma we started with.
Exactly. After the messy subway escape, Mason and Nadia take Abby to this remote Citadel safe house. They plan to stash her there before they fly off to stop the G8 assassination. But the tension in that house is thick enough to choke on, because Abby knows she's Celeste now.
She knows her entire life is a manufactured construct. And she finally confronts Mason about it in one of the most heartbreaking scenes of the season. She brings up this specific memory of a weekend trip they took to Portland. They were staying at a Marriott. They got drunk in the parking lot, and when they finally fell asleep, Mason whispered a name. He whispered Nadia.
The subconscious truth bleeding right through the fake Kyle partition, and Abby tells him it happened a dozen more times over the years. She says that whenever he looked at her, she could feel him secretly hoping to see Nadia's face. The psychological devastation of knowing your husband is perpetually searching for a ghost while looking right at you, I can't even imagine.
And she delivers this crucial piece of dialogue. She tells him, I don't think you can blame it all on him, on Mason. She is refusing to let him compartmentalize his guilt. The Kyle persona doesn't get a pass just because he didn't pull the trigger. Both halves of his brain are entirely complicit in stealing her life.
She completely refuses to be a passive victim. Mason is trying to manage the situation, telling her to lock the door, stay safe, and he'll come back for her. But Abby issues an absolute ultimatum. She refuses to be the little wife stashed somewhere off-grid while her husband and his super spy soulmate go save the world. She tells him, you and Nadia are off saving the world again, and Hendrix and I, we give up everything so that you don't have to let go of anything.
It's a massive declaration of autonomy from a woman whose autonomy was literally stolen from her. She forces his hand. She says he cannot be both men anymore. If he genuinely wants her and their daughter, he has to walk out the front door with her right now, abandon Citadel, abandon Nadia, and never look back.
And this is the moment of truth. Mason looks at her, looks at Nadia, and he agrees. He chooses Abby. He turns to Nadia, who is standing right there, looking completely shattered but ready to let him go, to apologize to her. And in that exact fraction of a second, the world ends.
Because hundreds of miles away, Edison finishes the code. Joanna Malvern looks at her screen and gives the order. Activate.
And the Manticore sleeper assassin isn't at the G8 summit. It's not a diplomat.
It's Abby.
Joanna implanted the chip inside Abby while she was holding her hostage.
The pure horror of this scene. A lot of people online said they saw it coming the minute Joanna noticed the scar on Abby's neck in captivity. But the execution of the sequence is just brutal because it's not a conscious choice. Abby's face just goes blank. The programming takes over.
She instantly attacks the team, and it is incredibly violent. It's involuntary, robotic choreography. She critically stabs Nadia, and then a mind-controlled Abby turns the gun on Mason Kane and shoots him twice directly in the chest.
She jumps out the window into the Scottish Highlands, leaving the entire narrative in ruins. And Mason bleeds out on the floor in Nadia's arms.
As he is dying, the show gives us his final flashing memories. But he doesn't see Kyle's life. He doesn't see Abby or Hendrix. He sees his wedding to Nadia. He sees the flowers, sliding the ring on her finger, their laughter. He uses his absolute final breath to apologize to Nadia, tell her he loves her, and then he dies.
We have to talk about the narrative audacity of this choice. They spent 2 entire seasons building up the ultimate destined lovers trope. The amnesiac spies slowly finding their way back to each other against all odds. You fully expect the grand, swelling music reunion where they kiss in front of an exploding Manticore facility. Instead, they abruptly and violently kill the male lead before the finale even starts.
It subverts every single expectation. But babes, the karmic justice of it all is undeniable. Think about the symmetry. Mason deleted Celeste's mind to turn her into a compliant puppet named Abby. Now, Joanna Malvern deletes Abby's mind to turn her into a literal puppet to destroy Mason. His past didn't just catch up to him, it literally pulled the trigger. It is poetic, tragic irony at its finest.
I love that read on it.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to his final choice right before the shooting started. When he told Abby he would walk away with her, was he actually choosing her out of love? Because based on his dying thoughts being exclusively about Nadia, I think his choice was a complete performance. I think the Kyle persona was just trying to make the morally obligatory choice to buy back some redemption after murdering Braga, but his actual heart always belonged to Nadia.
Oh, absolutely. He died trying to perform as a good man he fundamentally wasn't, getting killed by the woman he violated while confessing his love to the woman he actually wanted. It is the messiest, most deeply human tragedy ever, which leaves Nadia in the most impossible cliffhanger position. She is bleeding out, the love of her life is dead on the floor, and the innocent woman who killed him is currently running through the Highlands as a weapon of mass destruction aimed at a global summit.
It is absolute perfection in terms of a cliffhanger, which means it is time for us to pivot to our segments, because we have to judge these people.
Yeah.
Let's start with our favorite segment, Agent of the Week. Babes who gave the best performance, made the smartest decision, or just flat out carried this episode.
Okay, I'm going to shock you because I am giving Agent of the Week to Dahlia Archer.
Wait, really?
Yes. I know she's a sociopath. I know she's toxic. But shooting the cop at the red light was objectively the smartest tactical decision to keep the mission from blowing up right then and there. Plus the psychological warfare of the chicken cacheteur. She carried the tension of episode 5 on her back.
I can't even argue with that. She is a terrifying mastermind.
Yeah.
But my Agent of the Week is actually Bernard Orlick. Not for his morals, because his morals are currently in the gutter, but for his sheer effectiveness. Blackmailing Frank Sharp was ruthless, but it got them the exact intel they needed about the G8 summit in record time. He is doing the dirty work nobody else wants to do.
Fair point. Okay, next segment. Trust nobody. Who is the most suspicious character right now? Who is the biggest liar, the best secret keeper, or the person most likely to betray everyone next episode?
I'm giving most likely to betray everyone to Nadia.
Nadia.
And hear me out. Nadia just watched the man she loves die because of Citadel's messy past and Manticore's current plot. She knows Bernard uses Manticore's blackmail tactics. If she realizes the rod is at the foundation of both houses, I think Nadia is going to burn Citadel to the ground. I think she goes full rogue.
Oh, that is a hot take, and I love it. I am giving biggest liar to Mason, or Kyle, obviously. His entire existence was a lie wrapped in a delusion. He lied to Abby, he lied to Nadia, he lied to himself, he couldn't pick a lane, and it got him killed.
He really was the patron saint of gaslighting. Okay, time for shady, snarky, or stupid. We take the messiest moments and categorize them. I'll start. Joanna Malvern escaping the subway shootout while Dahlia just drives away without helping Mason. Shady, snarky, or stupid?
Oh, that is pure shady. Dahlia didn't even tap the brakes. She looked at Mason fighting for his life in the rearview mirror and was like, well, best of luck, babe, and hit the gas. It is peak shade. Okay, my turn. Braga, trying to guilt trip the highly unstable assassin who currently has him held hostage in a closet. Shady, snarky, or stupid?
Objectively stupid. The man is spiraling, he has a gun, you are in a confined space, and your strategy is to tell him his daughters are going to dream about drowning him. You deserve to get shot, Braga. That was an ego play that cost him his life. Stupid with a capital S.
Absolutely. Finally, let's wrap up with mission predictions. Give me one completely unhinged theory for what happens next that somehow sounds believable.
Okay, here's my unhinged prediction. I think the Russian Prime Minister, the guy who wanted to be exempt from the surveillance system, is actually a deep cover Citadel asset who has been playing a multi-decade-long con to expose Manticore's infrastructure, and the G8 assassination plot is actually a trap he set for Joanna.
Wait, I actually love that. Okay, my unhinged prediction. Abby doesn't kill anyone at the G8. I think the chip malfunctions because of the lingering brain damage from when Mason originally wiped her memories as Celeste. I think the conflicting programming codes crosswire, and she regains all of Celeste's tactical training but keeps Abby's rage, and she becomes an uncontrollable third-party anti-hero who hunts both agencies.
I would watch an entire spin-off of just that.
Right. Ugh, babes, the chaos is so good. But that wraps up our deep dive for today. Snark Squad, we need to hear from you in the comments.
We have so many questions for you. First of all, Oreo Biscoff cheesecake or classic cheesecake? Where do you stand?
Second, do espresso martinis officially count as dessert, or are they an acceptable afternoon coffee replacement?
Third, would you actually be able to focus on conjugating verbs in Giovanni's Italian class, or would you be completely compromised like we are?
And finally, regarding the show, which character do you trust the absolute least right now?
Thank you all so much for listening and spiraling with us today. Please remember to like this video, drop a comment with your answers, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your messiest friend who loves spy drama as much as we do.
We love you, babes. Stay curious, stay chaotic, and we'll see you on the snark side.